I am young Homer, here to guide you further into the rise and fall of Zeus. Tonight, we continue Series 10, The Fall of Zeus, End of the Reign and Legacy, with Episode 83, Zeus's Final Act, the Trojan War and its Aftermath. In this tale, we revisit the infamous Trojan War, a conflict of mortals and gods alike, and one that would mark Zeus's final intervention in the world of men. His decision to allow this great war to unfold brings alliances, betrayals, and loss beyond measure. As the clash between Troy and Greece plays out, the gods themselves are divided, each taking sides in a conflict that echoes across time. When the final blow is struck, Zeus witnesses the cost of his power and the consequences of his choices, leaving a legacy that would echo in both mortal and divine realms long after the dust settles. As we enter this tale of finality and consequence, allow yourself to settle deeply into the warmth of your bed, feeling safe, grounded, and fully supported. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a slow, deep breath in, letting calm fill your chest, as steady as the march of armies toward their destiny. As you exhale, release any remaining tension, allowing your body to grow heavy, sinking into stillness and ease. This is your time to rest, to let go, and to find peace. Inhale and exhale as constant as the rise and fall of ancient battlegrounds. Take a slightly deeper breath in, letting it fill you completely, and hold it softly for a moment. Then, as you exhale, feel any tightness dissolve, leaving only warmth and tranquility. One more time, breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, feel yourself sinking further, calm and serene. Now, let's guide each part of the body to soften, inviting rest with every breath. Start with your forehead, allowing it to relax completely as you exhale. Move to your jaw, releasing any tightness, letting it rest gently. Now bring awareness to your shoulders. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, let them fall as though setting down the weight of countless years. Allow your arms and hands to grow heavy, resting peacefully by your sides. Notice the steady rise and fall in your chest and belly, inhaling as your belly rises, and on the exhale, releasing any last bits of tension, feeling light and free. Shift your focus to your hips and thighs, letting them sink deeper into the bed, fully supported and relaxed. And finally, bring attention to your calves, feet, and toes, allowing them to release completely, grounded and calm. Now, imagine yourself overlooking a vast battlefield where the clash of mortal and divine has left only echoes in the still air. In the distance, you see Zeus, his gaze heavy, his face marked with the weight of loss as he watches the end of the war unfold. The dust settles on a field forever changed, where men and gods alike have left their mark. Zeus knows his final act has come to a close, the last ripple of his power felt across the world, leaving behind a legacy that will be told for ages to come. With each breath, feel yourself surrounded by the calm and weight of this moment, as though you too understand the quiet finality of choices made. Inhale deeply, letting the calm and reflection of the scene fill you. And exhale, feeling grounded, steady, and fully at ease. With your body relaxed and your mind open, allow the story to carry you into this world of endings, legacies, and timeless remembrance, where even the mightiest must face the echoes of their choices. Take one last deep breath in and let it out softly. Now, let us begin. The Trojan War began as a clash over mortal love and honor, but it quickly spiraled into a conflict that dragged Olympus into its depths. Hera, Athena, Aphrodite, and Apollo took sides, each god championing their own favored heroes, driven by pride and vendettas. Zeus had attempted to maintain impartiality, but the war's intensity and the passions of his family pushed him to the brink. The king of the gods, once a symbol of unity, became a distant, weary figure overseeing a kingdom torn apart by conflicting loyalties. But instead, it exposed his own weakness. By refusing to assert control, Zeus allowed the gods' rivalries to erupt openly on the battlefield, their interference causing mortal bloodshed and devastation beyond comprehension. Mortals, once loyal to Olympus, began to see the gods as chaotic forces rather than protectors, their own lives nothing more than pawns in a game of divine pride. What had once been a grand display of power became a source of regret, a reminder of how far Olympus had fallen from the days of respect and reverence. In watching the gods battle through mortals, Zeus understood that he could no longer unify Olympus under his authority. The Trojan War had shattered the fragile peace that remained, leaving him not as a leader, but as a silent witness to a kingdom divided. Zeus's final act of disengagement had fractured Olympus, and his silence left his kingdom exposed to the consequences of unchecked pride. The gods returned from the Trojan War weary and disillusioned, their alliances shattered and their respect for one another diminished. Hera, still stinging from Paris's slight, grew resentful of both mortals and her own kin, blaming them for the fall of her favored Greeks. Athena, though triumphant in supporting the Achaeans, felt no satisfaction, only bitterness at the carnage she had witnessed. Apollo, devastated by the loss of Hector, distanced himself from Olympus, retreating into his own realm, a god disillusioned by both his family and his own role in the war. These gods, once allies, now carried grudges and grievances that no amount of time could erase. The halls of Olympus, once filled with unity and purpose, were now hushed, each god feeling the weight of the war and the grudges it left behind. Zeus, sensing the divide, understood that his efforts to keep the peace had failed, that the Trojan War had not only scarred the mortal world, but had left an indelible rift in the divine realm itself. This lingering resentment became a silent rebellion, each god retreating further into their own domains, less willing to gather as a pantheon, each interaction tainted by the memory of the war. Olympus, once united under Zeus's rule, now felt like a fractured kingdom, a place where gods only gathered out of duty rather than loyalty. Zeus, who had once ruled through both respect and fear, found himself presiding over a kingdom of silent animosities and broken trust. The aftermath of the Trojan War left Olympus weakened, a kingdom where unity was only an illusion, and the gods' loyalty to Zeus had faded into memory. For mortals, the Trojan War was a turning point, a tragedy that reshaped their perception of the gods. They had watched as their heroes fell, not out of their own choices, but because of divine rivalries and interference. Achilles, Hector, and countless others became casualties in a battle waged as much by Olympus as by men, and mortals began to question the gods' intentions and purpose. Were the gods truly protectors, or were they mere manipulators, indifferent to the suffering they caused? In the years that followed, mortals began to pull away from Olympus. Philosophers like Socrates and thinkers across the Greek world spoke of human agency and the value of mortal wisdom. Temples stood less as places of reverence and more as relics, memories of a time when gods had been feared and worshipped. Mortals found strength in their own hands, in their own cities and minds, and as they built new empires and explored new ideas, they no longer looked to Olympus for guidance. The Trojan War had shown them that the gods were not above flaws, that their interference brought more harm than good. This disillusionment marked the beginning of a new era, a world where humans began to craft their own stories, where the gods were respected but no longer revered. Zeus's authority, once unchallenged, became little more than a memory, his name a legend rather than a law. The war had driven a wedge between mortals and the divine, an irreversible shift that left Zeus's influence fading in a world that no longer needed him. In the solitude of his throne, Zeus found himself haunted by the memories of the Trojan War. He remembered the council meetings, the arguments, the pleas from Hera and Athena, each god demanding their own intervention, each one pulling him in different directions. He saw, with painful clarity, the decisions he could have made differently, the alliances he could have strengthened, the unity he could have preserved. But it was too late. His hesitation, his inability to control his own kin, had led to the collapse of Olympus's unity. Zeus reflected on his own role in the war, not as a ruler, but as an absent leader. His choice to remain neutral, to let the gods fight their own battles, had shown his weakness more clearly than any act of defiance. He realized that he had lost Olympus not through rebellion, but through inaction, that his final act had been one of silence when his voice was most needed. The war, meant to settle mortal disputes, had revealed the divine realm's own fractures, each god's loyalty more divided than ever. This reflection brought him a profound sense of regret, a realization that his kingdom was no longer bound by loyalty, that he was a king without a united kingdom. The Trojan War had been his last act of authority, but rather than strengthening his rule, it had left him isolated, a figurehead rather than a ruler. Zeus's reflection revealed a painful truth. He had become a relic in his own kingdom, his power diminished by the very gods he sought to protect. The aftermath of the Trojan War marked the beginning of Olympus's descent from the mortal world. The gods, each burdened by their own regrets, withdrew from human affairs, their roles shifting from active rulers to distant figures of myth. As humanity moved forward, building new empires and crafting new beliefs, Olympus faded from view, its once great halls empty, its altars bare. For Zeus, this was a slow, agonizing decline, a kingdom he had fought to build, now slipping away, not with a rebellion or a battle, but with quiet abandonment. He watched as mortals sought strength in themselves, each new leader, each new philosophy, a step further from the gods who had once ruled them. Temples crumbled, prayers grew silent, and Olympus became more a memory than a place of power. The Trojan War had sealed the fate of Olympus, not with a single blow, but with the slow, steady erosion of faith and loyalty. Zeus's final act, meant to preserve peace, had only hastened the end of an era, leaving him a king without a kingdom, a ruler of memories rather than of gods and men. The war had left Olympus empty, its power faded, its gods resigned to the inevitability of a kingdom in decline. In his final moments of reflection, Zeus understood that his time as ruler of Olympus had come to an end. The Trojan War, his last attempt at holding together a fractured kingdom, had shown him the futility of his control. He accepted with a heavy heart that Olympus would never again be what it once was, that his rule was no longer needed in a world that had moved beyond him. He looked upon the mortal world one last time, seeing the cities, the scholars, the leaders who now guided humanity with wisdom and courage. He realized that his legacy would live on, not in temples and altars, but in stories, tales of a powerful king who had once ruled with thunder and might, a god whose name would be remembered, but whose power had faded. In his acceptance, Zeus found a strange peace, a release from the burden of rule, a quiet pride in the world that would carry his memory. The king had become a legend, his name destined to be spoken not in worship, but in wonder, a tale of a god who had shaped the world and in time became a story for future generations. Zeus's acceptance marked the end of his reign, a legacy left in the hearts and minds of those who would remember him as both a king and a legend. But the story of Zeus's legacy is far from over. Join us in the next episode as we explore the era when mortals no longer prayed, when the gods became forgotten figures, and Olympus itself faded into the shadows of history. Discover how the final moments of divine influence marked the end of an age, and the rise of a world where mortals shaped their own destiny. Until we meet again, may your path be filled with peace, strength, and a touch of magic. I'm young Homer, and I look forward to our next story together.